My name is James Lee, and I am a general dentist in Ann Arbor, Michigan.
All right. So being a dentist, what does that entail?
Being a dentist entails quite a few things. One, you are a clinician. You're responsible for the healthcare, oral health care of many people, and you're also in a leadership position because you're working with your staff members, and so you have to be able to work well with a team and learn how to interact with people on many different levels. You also have a lot of people that are connected to you in the industry because you buy a lot of things, a lot of dental materials and supplies, and so you interact in the business world as well as in the clinical world.
What made you interested in dentistry?
It's just something I always said I wanted to do. When I was a kid growing up, it was just one of the first things I said I wanted to do, and just pretty much stuck with it. But it wasn't until later, until maybe in high school, that I took a more serious interest and began to observe in dental offices of some of the local dentists. One of those is the one who actually brought me down to U of M's campus because he had attended the University of Michigan in undergrad in dental school, and his office was right down the street from my high school. So I went to like a day on the job program with him, and that ultimately led to him bringing me down to career day at U of M, where I was able to meet the counselors and look at the curriculum and see all of the things that would be required to plan out a career in dentistry.
So you talked about this being one of the first things you thought about as a young person. So was it a goal of yours to become a dentist?
Yes, absolutely. That was my life's dream. I didn't have any family members who had gone into professions. I hadn't had any family members who had actually gone to college other than my sister, who was the first one to go to college. So it was just something I somehow latched onto, and then once I really tried to explore it more, I stayed with it. And the people that I got connected with reassured me that was really what I wanted to do.
Yeah. Can you speak about the education and the process
Sure.
of becoming a dentist?
The education, you have to be quite patient, I guess, because it takes about 4 years of college and then another 4 years of dental school. Back when I was coming through, I met a student who was in dental school, and she had gotten into dental school after 2 years, which is unheard of. So I said, let me see if I can do it in 3. And so after about 2.5 years, I had completed my requirements to get in to the dental school. I didn't graduate from undergrad at the time. I simply had the requirements done, and they allow certain students to come in at the time too, if you had done that. And the education part for undergrad is, let's see, it's 4 semesters of chemistry, which is 2 years. You need 2 semesters of physics. You need 2 semesters of English, and I think a foreign language is encouraged, psychology is encouraged, and it's also good if you take some advanced classes like microbiology and biochemistry. Even though you'll have to take those in dental school, it's kind of good to already be familiar with those fields.
So the road to being a doctor, you have to do residency. Is there something similar to that to be a dentist?
Actually, dentists don't have to do a residency, but many are electing to do that. At the time that I graduated, maybe about a third of the class would go into residencies. The other third would go into private practice and work as an associate, and then very few would just start up a practice, right out of dental school. Now it's probably maybe 50 to 60% of the students will spend another year or 2 in a residency, either at a hospital or a type of clinic before they go into practice.
Can you talk about the best type of person suited for this job?
I think compassionate, because you see people a lot of times, can be in discomfort. They can have very personable types of needs. And so compassionate person for one. You have to be able to like to help people and like to communicate and interact with people in a very personal way. It's got a lot of dynamics to it. You know, I'm more of an introvert type of person, but I'm more conversational in terms of the way I interact with people. So I have to kind of come out of a shell in order to be, you know, a dentist. It's not something that you can do like if you're necessarily a computer person, where you're just isolated in a cubicle and you're working in that way. So you have to be somewhat outgoing, interactive with people, even if it's not like your natural personality. You have to be a multitasker, because while you're doing what you're doing, you have to anticipate what the next thing that you're doing, or if you have 2 or 3 things going on and you get a call, there's an emergency patient, you have to know how to work the patient in to get them comfortable, and at the same time try to stay on schedule, keep your scheduled patients' needs addressed. So you balance things, and you have to be willing to exert yourself in a way and take on sometimes a little more than you might otherwise, and still get through it calmly.
What makes this career fun, interesting, or exciting, or all of the above?
I would say to make it fun is when you refine your systems and ways of doing things in a way that you can focus on. You can talk about anything: fishing, sports, politics, the world, whatever. You can do that because you're comfortable with what you're doing. It's sort of like driving. When you first learn how to drive, you have to focus on everything you're doing with driving. And that's the aspect of dentistry. Once you get really comfortable with the drive, now you can talk. You don't want to be distracted, obviously, but you feel like you can do multiple things while you're doing it. Probably not the best analogy, but you get a sense of comfort, so you don't have to think about every step. What keeps it fun also is just hearing patients come in, interacting with our staff. We hear laughter a lot. We hear people coming in and telling us stories, and it's just the whole interaction that we have with the patient from the time they come in to the time that they leave, and how they interact with our whole staff.
Right.
Yeah.
You talked about being a high school student and getting to college and going to dentistry early. Can you talk about before high school, where you grew up, what type of person you were, and how you got into dentistry?
Sure. Yeah. I was the type of person who began working very early in life. I had lost my father when I was about 8 years old. So I heard, at that time, I'm now the man of the house. So I kind of took that to heart, and as soon as I was old enough to do things, I sold newspapers, sold seeds and candy, and anything that was going on at school. I would do those types of things in competitions. I would mow lawns and shovel snow, and I was a kid in the neighborhood who was known to do those things. My mom would joke because I'd do everybody else's and then come home later in the day and do ours, But I learned how to be fairly social in that way, learning how to interact with people, my neighbors, and I really felt a part of the community. And so when I think back on the things that I'm doing now and then, I see how all of that kind of ties together to be able to interact with people on a day-to-day basis. So, yeah.
Another aspect of dentistry is mentorship. How did a mentor play a part in your life?
Yes, the dentist who brought me down to Ann Arbor, Dr. Tom Belford in Flint, Michigan, he was mentored by Lee Jones, who's been a dentist at Ann Arbor for many, many years. And Dr. Jones was a counselor at the dental school. So Dr. Belford was, I believe, one of the first, if not the first, African-American student that he recruited. And then he recruited me. And so, and at the same time, many of the dentists in my hometown had come through U of M. And so I always felt like I was connected to a network. And I could see people at different stages. I could see people who were in practice who were connected with U of M. I could see people who were students in undergrad and people who were actually in dental school. So I could see the entire network all functioning at one time. And people at each level of that, at different aspects of that were all giving me input in terms of how I can best prepare myself as I was going through the channels of undergrad and into dental school and then into a profession. I'll just mention with that too, because there's two sides to mentorships in my opinion. One is I've been mentored, and that's one reason why I try to leave our door open. You know, we get students that call, under college students, high school students, and we try to have pretty much open door policy to come in, they can shadow, spend some time with us, see what we're doing, not just as a dentist, but we have hygienists working here, we have dental assistants, and we have our staff working in the front office, so they can kind of get a sense of how an office functions, and you know, we keep the door open for that and try to have an invitation, you know, for people to do that. So.
All right, so what advice would you give a young person interested in becoming a dentist?
Get in touch with your dentist, number one, because anytime you want to do whatever it is, you want to spend time with the person who's been doing that, because they have a lot of insight and they know the system. So get connected, make it a reality rather than just a vague kind of thought. And if you're just kind of exploring, check with a dentist, check with somebody else in a whole other area of that you may be interested in. And part of knowing what you want to do is also knowing what you don't want to do. When you come into a dental office, you know, there's certain things you'll see, hear, and so forth, and if it doesn't make you comfortable, then you already know this isn't the environment for you. And so you want to find something that you like, that you see, that's interesting, and something ultimately that you can become passionate about. Because some careers and occupations, to me, you can't do them for money. There's so much involved on a day-to-day basis, you know, and you're in it for the long haul once you commit to going to school and to investing in years in training and so forth. So you want to feel really good about what you're going into. And so you get connected with the process of finding a mentor, finding a person who's doing that, and spending some time with them and with possibly even multiple people who are doing that very thing.
So any final advice you want to give to anyone?
Well, I think for young people, you know, there's a lot competing for your time. You know, there's a lot of things out there in society that are glamorous, you know, from sports and music industry and so forth. But there are a lot of things in life that you can gain from one, whatever you do, having your education, because that'll help you to really explore whatever it is you go into. Manage any profits or whatever that you get out of that. But more importantly to me, the educational aspect of what you do helps you to be a problem solver in life, whether it's for you, your community, your family, whatever. It gives you a good foundation and helps to give you also perspective, a way of looking at, interpreting the things that are going on in your life. So you can have all of the wealth and riches and fame and so forth, but without those underlying values of having perspective and understanding what it is that's really in front of you, it loses a lot of its meaning, I think.
All right, thank you.
Thank you.